I heard the bread basket hit the table before I heard my sister say it. "We didn't order for your son, Sara." The way her voice sliced through the air, it felt rehearsed. Like she'd been waiting all evening to deliver that line. My 11-year-old son, David, looked up at me, holding the basket like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to touch it. Meanwhile, her 2 kids sat across the table, their plates already steaming with 2 $100 ribeye steaks, each one bigger than their heads. I felt heat crawl up my neck, but I forced myself to breathe. This wasn't the moment to explode. Not yet. If you're watching this and you've ever had family embarrass your child in front of others, trust me, you're not alone. And if this hits home so far, tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing your comments as I tell these stories. Because this one changed everything. A week before the infamous dinner, my sister Michelle called me. That alone should have been a red flag. Michelle doesn't call. Michelle summons. She's 5 years older than me and somehow has always acted like that makes her half parent, half queen of the family. She married a finance guy, moved to a more expensive part of Dallas, joined a country club, basically curated a life that looks perfect on Instagram but feels like a museum exhibit in person. So when she called, her tone was sugary sweet. "Hey, Sara. We're taking the kids to Hawthorne Prime on Saturday. It'll be fun. You and David should come." Hawthorne Prime. The kind of steakhouse where they have white tablecloths and waiters who call you ma'am like you're royalty. I had no business being there on my teacher's salary. But David had been feeling down lately, tests, middle school drama, the works, and a night out felt like a good distraction. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Of course. It's family. Just show up." I should have pressed. I should have known that when Michelle says family, she means her family, and whatever orbit I'm allowed to exist in temporarily. But I said yes. And that yes cost me more than one night's peace. Growing up, Michelle and I were never close. She was the star, the tall one, the straight-A student, the one mom bragged about at every church potluck. I was the creative one. The one who drew pictures in the margins of her homework. The one teachers said had potentially in a way that sounded suspiciously like an apology. When we were teens, Michelle treated me like a tag-along she couldn't shake off. When we became adults, she treated me like someone she pitied. And then when I became a single mom, she treated me like a charity case. I worked hard, took 2 jobs, finished my teaching credential, made sure David had everything he needed. But in Michelle's eyes, I was still the girl who didn't plan well, who made emotional decisions, who didn't think ahead. Once, she even whispered at Thanksgiving, thinking I wouldn't hear. I swear, Sara lives her whole life winging it. That whisper stayed with me. But none of those moments prepared me for what she did at Hawthorne Prime. And what I eventually uncovered about why she did it. Stick with me, because the twist is coming. The night of the dinner, I dressed David in his nicest shirt, a navy button-up he saves for school photos. The whole car ride, he buzzed with excitement. "Do you think they'll have mac and cheese? Do fancy restaurants have dessert carts? Can I try steak like Uncle Mark eats?" I smiled, even though my stomach was tight. "I'm sure they'll have something good." We got to Hawthorne Prime, and immediately, I felt out of place. Crystal lighting. Men in suits. Women in heels sharp enough to pierce clouds. Michelle was already seated at a large booth with her husband, Mark, and their 2 kids. The table was set beautifully, and already full of plates. Her kids were cutting into massive ribeyes, butter melting on top. David's eyes widened. I forced a smile. "Looks good in here, huh?" Michelle didn't smile back. She barely looked at me. Her voice was clipped. Well, you made it. Made it? I checked the time. We were right on schedule. But before I could ask what she meant, the waiter placed a basket of bread in front of David. And then she said it. The line. The moment. The humiliation that cracked through every bone in my body. We didn't order for your son, Sara. Bread should be fine. He eats simple. Simple. The way she said it, like he was a stray dog she generously tossed scraps to. I froze. David looked at me, confused. Mom? Didn't they get me something? I swallowed hard, because I couldn't let my voice shake. We'll figure it out, sweetheart. But the look he gave me, the hurt, the embarrassment, hit me like nothing else ever had. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. I pulled the waiter aside, quietly. Hi, I'm so sorry. Could we please add a kid's steak to our order? He nodded politely. Of course, ma'am. Before he could walk away, Michelle snapped her fingers, actually snapped her fingers, like he was her personal assistant. Wait. She pointed at the menu. That steak is $65. Sara, you can't afford that. Just let him eat bread and some of the sides. He'll be fine. People were watching. Heads turned. My face felt like it was on fire. Michelle, I whispered, trying to keep calm, I'll pay for it. It's not your business. She gave a patronizing smile that made my skin crawl. No, no. We invited you. And I'm telling you, we're not ordering extras tonight. The bill is already high. Mark didn't even look up from his steak. Her kids snickered. One whispered loud enough for us to hear. Why did they even come? David's head dropped. That was humiliation scene number 2 of the night, another quiet, cutting line I'll never forget. But I wasn't done being humbled yet. Not even close. The steak I ordered anyway, quietly, discreetly, hoping the waiter wouldn't listen to Michelle, finally arrived for David. He perked up, but the damage was done. I could feel Michelle watching me the entire meal, like she wanted to catch me doing something wrong. Like she wanted me to feel small. When the check came, something inside me already knew. I watched Michelle slide it across the table toward me. You ordered extra, she said, folding her arms. So you can handle the whole bill. The whole bill. For her $100 steaks. For her kids' drinks. For everything. I opened it. $427.50. My heart dropped. I didn't have it. Not like that. Not without putting groceries on hold. And Michelle knew it. Her eyes were cold. I mean, it's only fair, she whispered. You can't expect us to pay for you and your child too. That line? That was the one that broke me. But it was also the line that started my revenge. Because I realized something about Michelle that night, something she had been hiding. And that secret was about to blow everything up. We drove home in silence. David fell asleep in the back seat, steak forgotten, bread basket still haunting me. I sat in the parking lot for a few minutes, breathing through the ache in my chest. The kind of ache that isn't just anger, it's betrayal layered with years of condescension. And I whispered to myself the line that became my turning point. I'm done begging for respect in my own family. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call her. I planned. Because Michelle had always acted like she was above me. Like she was superior. Like she was the stable one, the successful one, the organized one. But she had a weakness. A big one. Something I had never planned to use. Until she humiliated my son. And once I remembered it, I knew exactly what to do. If you're still with me at this point, and this story is stirring something in you, hit the like button. It helps more than you imagine and tells me I'm not alone in these family experiences. 2 years earlier, Michelle had asked me for help filling out school forms for her kids. She said she was too busy, but the truth was simpler, she didn't understand half the paperwork. I helped her organize tax forms, insurance documents, and even the tuition subsidy paperwork for the private school her kids attended. And while helping her, I noticed something odd. The school offered partial tuition assistance for lower-income families. And Michelle, despite her luxury lifestyle, was receiving it. She wasn't supposed to qualify. Her husband's income alone disqualified them by a mile. But Michelle had filed separate financial paperwork, claiming a drastically reduced income by listing herself as temporarily unemployed and not supported by spouse. In reality, she ran an online boutique, made a healthy income, and her husband absolutely supported her. At the time, I let it go. She said she had her reasons, and I didn't want drama. But now, after what she did, I realized I had something she feared more than anything. Exposure. I wasn't going to scream at her. I wasn't going to show up at her house. I wasn't going to fight for scraps of dignity. No. My plan was going to be silent. And devastating. I gathered what I had, copies of the forms I helped her fill out, screenshots she had sent me, even emails where she complained about how easy it was to get the tuition discount. I didn't embellish. I didn't lie. I didn't threaten. I simply organized everything into a clean, labeled folder. Then I reached out to the school's administrative office. "Hi," I said. "I need to report a mistake on a family tuition file. I believe someone might have used incorrect financial information." I didn't even have to say her name at first. They pulled up the file, reviewed the documents, and the silence on the phone was enough to feel the shift. "Ma'am, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll handle the rest." I didn't ask for updates. I didn't follow up. I let the truth do the work. 2 weeks later, Michelle called me. Not to apologize. Not to check on David. Not to acknowledge anything she did. But to scream. "Sara, the school is asking for financial audits. They said there were inconsistencies in our forms. Did you say something?" Her voice was frantic, breathless. And in the background, I could hear her husband demanding answers. I played dumb. Calm. "No, Michelle. Why would I be involved? You always said you handled everything perfectly." She froze. I could feel the silence on the line. Then she whispered, the private humiliation line I'd been waiting for. "You have no idea what you just did." I didn't respond. Because she was wrong. I knew exactly what I did. A month later, the school sent out a quiet notice. Michelle and Mark were no longer part of the parent leadership program, and their children would not be receiving further financial assistance. But that wasn't the real blow. The real blow happened at a school fundraiser dinner, public, formal, filled with the same people Michelle tried so hard to impress. I was there volunteering as a teacher liaison. Michelle walked in wearing a forced smile stretched so tight it looked painful. People whispered. People stared. One woman approached her, voice low but sharp. "I'm sorry about the scholarship being revoked. Must be tough." It wasn't said with sympathy. Michelle's face drained of color. Her whole world, this perfect image, had cracked open. And she knew I knew. I didn't look at her. I didn't smirk. I didn't revel. I just served dessert plates and let her feel something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Consequences. A week after the fundraiser, Michelle came to my apartment. She didn't call. She just knocked. And when I opened the door, she looked different. Deflated, exhausted. Human, can we talk? She asked. We sat at my tiny kitchen table. The same table she once said looked like something from a garage sale. Funny how places feel different when you enter them humbled. She didn't yell. She didn't defend herself. She just said, I messed up. And I treated you and David like garbage. I'm sorry. The apology wasn't perfect. Parts of it felt forced. Parts felt real. But it was enough. I nodded. I'm not asking for perfection, Michelle. I'm asking for respect. Especially for my son. She wiped her eyes. I know. I don't know why I've always acted like I'm better than you. I did. She was scared of being ordinary. But I didn't say that. She continued, voice breaking. I was trying to keep up. Look successful. Look impressive. And I hurt you in the process. That was the closest thing to self-awareness I'd ever heard from her. So I offered the only boundary that mattered. We can rebuild. But if you ever treat David like that again, you're out of our lives. She nodded. And for the first time in years. She actually meant it. 3 weeks later, Michelle invited us to dinner again. This time at my favorite place, a simple local barbecue spot. No white tablecloth. No $100 steaks. Just good food and no pressure. David was cautious at first. But when Michelle handed him a plate piled high and said, Get whatever you want, buddy, tonight is on me. I saw his shoulders relax. The 3 kids laughed together. Mark even helped David pick a dessert. It wasn't perfect. We weren't magically healed. But it was a start. Family can cut deeper than anyone. Especially the ones who pretend they're helping while pushing you down. But I learned something important through all of this. You don't have to match someone's cruelty to hold them accountable. Sometimes the quiet truth is the sharpest justice of all. And if you've ever dealt with a family member who made you feel small, just know, you're allowed to stand your ground. You're allowed to protect your child. And you're allowed to walk away from people who refuse to grow. If you stayed with me through this whole story, thank you. And if any part of this reminded you of your own family battles, drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Your support means more than you know.